Parasyte is a manga that, despite being created in the late 80s and early 90s, holds up incredibly well in our modern day. And I think the key to its success is just how universal its themes and ideas are that it presents within its story, but also that it does it in a way that's not too heavy-handed and also involves enough intense action and horror sequences along the way that you spend most of your time on this adrenaline-fueled ride of suspense. But then, after you finish the manga, you aren't really thinking much about the action and the bloodshed, but instead it makes you want to go on a long drive through the mountains, sit on the roof of your car staring at the night sky, and reflect on your life and place in the world, and what it means to be alive, and what it means to be human. And what does being human really mean anyway? So Parasyte could be described as a sci-fi horror manga that draws inspiration and concepts from things like Invasion of the Body Snatchers and John Carpenter's The Thing. In fact, there are a lot of creature imagery here that is extremely reminiscent of The Thing, and considering they both came out in the 80s, that makes total sense. But essentially, we have a story that is taking place during some kind of alien invasion. These creatures are tiny worm-like entities that, just like the title suggests, work as a parasite burrowing into a human host brain and taking them over completely, being able to control them and then live within the world of mankind, though believing themselves to be superior and even surviving off the sustenance of eating other human beings, viewing us humans as no different than cattle or pigs. We're just another food source. They deceptively pretend to be human and live among them, only revealing their identity when it's time to feed. And our protagonist, Shinichi, is a high school student who wakes up one night with one of these creatures trying to burrow up his nose. He manages to get it out, but it jumps into his arm next, and still trying to make his way to his brain, but is effectively stopped. Because of this, the creature bonds with Shinichi's hand and basically becomes sentient, allowing him to talk and communicate with Shinichi. This would eventually result in Shinichi becoming enhanced and more powerful with the alien attachment, but still retaining his own personality. My only thought when this happened was, how the hell is he supposed to whack off now? I mean, that would just be awkward. I guess No Nut November would be a lot easier if your hand is literally a deadly murder machine. I'm not putting that on my dick. Anyways, the parasite is named Migi, and Shinichi learns more about the epidemic befalling mankind, and Migi is more interested in learning on how humanity operates and how to continue its own survival. And at the beginning of the manga, a lot of humor is involved with Migi being able to sense how Shinichi feels about things, particularly around girls, and the awkwardness of trying to continue to go to school and live an ordinary life when your right hand is like an annoying conjoined twin that you can't get rid of. The two species are forced to coexist and to learn about one another in order for both of them to continue to survive. Meanwhile, the other successfully adapted parasites begin to slowly multiply and rampage in the shadows, but with their ultimate intent being unclear for most of the manga. See, this manga sets you up with the idea that Shinichi is our good hero protagonist and that the alien parasites are all evil. I mean, how wouldn't they be? They literally take over bodies, neglect a human being's free will, and kill other humans to eat. But the manga explores a lot more when it comes to delving into the ideas that relate to all living beings. Migi is very emotionless in his actions, trying to keep Shinichi alive to, in turn, keep himself alive. The closer that Shinichi and Migi become, Shinichi seemingly begins to lose hold of his emotions. People die and he is unable to react. There's a great scene where he finds a dead puppy and he decides to just throw it in the trash, assuming that the dog is dead and therefore it is of no further use. But this is not the way a human would traditionally react. There's something that we as humans find special about ourselves, and a lot of that comes down to empathy and being able to feel and respect other people and things, even if it has no direct input in our own lives. Taking the dog out of the trash and then burying it next to a tree serves no purpose in Shinichi's life. It doesn't nourish him, it doesn't help him procreate, and it takes energy that gives no return investment, so why do it? Well, I think that's something this manga is trying to say, and I don't know for sure what the author's intentions were or anything, but I think that maybe just being a human means trying to survive for one's own benefit in a selfish way, but Feeling human involves empathy for others and compassion that goes beyond the understanding of just simple survival. It's a 1% aspect of ourselves that maybe some people would call the soul, I don't know. Burying the dog symbolically gives respect to its own existence. It's something that Shinichi understands, but Migi does not. There's also a lot of themes that involve parents and procreation, which is obviously one of the prime directives of all life. If we strip everything else away, erase modern conveniences and social constructs, the things that we want to do most as living beings are eat and fuck. I mean, basically, right? And that's exactly what interests the parasites when they begin to take over humanity. They immediately believe themselves to be at the top of the food chain, just as humans currently do. And to them, a human is just what like a cow is to a human, so just something to herd and to eat. But also there was the curiosity of sex. So two parasite-infected humans have sex, and what comes of the offspring afterwards. I'm going to have to get into a little bit of spoilers here, so if you don't want to know anything about Parasyte, just skip ahead about a minute in the video. But the infected human Raiko gets pregnant and realizes that she's having a human baby. The baby is not infected by the parasites at all, though. It will be strictly human, and she carries it through to birth, and when the baby is here and now and alive, she instinctively tries to protect it at all costs, both at the expense of the other parasites coming to kill her and accepting her own death in order to save the child. And again, saving the child has no direct benefit to her survival, so why do it? And similarly, we get a flashback to Shinichi's mother, a moment where she dives in front of a falling pot of boiling water. She burns her arm in order to protect the toddler version of Shinichi. All life wants to protect their DNA, but when it comes to your child, there is a self-sacrificial feeling that overtakes us completely. Most parents are willing to do anything to protect their child. They will put themselves in extreme danger and be willing to die in order to protect them. It comes down to unconditional love, which is something that is seemingly irrational. How many things in life are actually unconditional? And I love how much effort this manga took to show the dynamic between a parent and a child, and how close Shinichi was to his parents, how much what happened to his mother affected him, and how after the tragedy, Shinichi's father still tries to protect him without even knowing that Shinichi is connected to these parasites in any way. And despite knowing the strength and threat of the parasites, just being a mere human, Shinichi's father still wanted to protect him. So basically what I'm getting at here is that this manga sets us up with the premise that the only thing a living being cares about is to ensure its own survival and continue its existence, but there are also things that we would do that make no sense from a logical viewpoint in order to honor, protect, and love other things, basically putting them above ourselves. It also comes at the idea of a new species like these parasites from a neutral perspective, in that they're not really evil. No more evil than a human being can be. Yes, some of them can be, but some of them aren't. They are just different forms of life trying to live the only way that they know how. To a gazelle, a lion looks pretty evil, but is the lion really evil? And if the gazelle could kill the lion, would it kill it just to protect future gazelles? And that's kind of the moral question that's at play at the later half of this manga, and it's a question that's very much left to the reader to determine for themselves, as a lot of Shinichi's actions are reactionary, and I don't think that's a bad thing. He feels like a very realistic character in that way. Yes, he wants to do the right thing for the most part, and he's still a young guy and he wants to protect himself and those around him, but he isn't always able to succeed in this. And the more death and carnage he's around, the more he starts to become emotionless, also connecting more to Migi. But becoming emotionless is also kind of a survival mechanism that is within the human body, so maybe after all, it wasn't just his assimilation with Migi that suppressed his emotions, but his own human side trying to remain alive within these dangerous situations. Ultimately woven within the story that can get darkly horrific and full of action battle sequences, we have a really succinct story about what it means to be human, what it means to be able to feel emotion not just for ourselves but for others, and how some can disregard this entirely and become sociopaths or killers, and how some may have been extremely selfish originally that can also have the ability to learn and understand how to have empathy for others, whether it be for your own child or something weaker than you that you feel an urge to protect. and that simple act of kindness or compassion could drastically change the course of another's life, sometimes for the better and sometimes not. Overall, I think Parasyte gives you a lot more than you expect it would within a manga that's on its surface is simply about an alien invasion. I can't really say that I had any gripes about this manga. I would have been interested to see where it could have gone if it continued on, because overall it's pretty short in comparison to a lot of the other manga I've read because it only has 64 chapters. But it says everything it needs to say within those 64 chapters, so there's really no need for it to go on. It's strange that the premise feels so global, and yet the story itself is extremely contained and really focuses on only a few select characters, and that's what it's about. It's about the connections and interactions. It's not about saving the world. It's about what it means to be human, and sometimes that means realizing that even though we put ourselves on a pedestal, that we are still just one form of life within this infinite cosmos of potential, but also that that fact shouldn't take away that we are capable of feeling and accomplishing amazing things. So if you need a manga that's going to give you that feeling of reflection, along with plenty of action, suspense, and horror scenes along the way, do yourself a favor and read Parasyte. Thank you guys for watching this review. I truly do appreciate it. Like this video if you enjoyed it, and let me know your thoughts and feelings about Parasyte down below. Whether you've read the manga or watched the anime, both are good. Tell me how you feel about the series and what you got out of it. Other than that, guys, please like the video because all interaction does help it be seen better in the algorithm, so I'd really appreciate it. Also, check the description below for my Patreon and merch store if you'd like to support the channel on that deeper level, as well as find all the social media links where you can follow me. For now, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'm going to try to read a lot more manga in 2022 and get you guys many, many more reviews. Take care, everyone, and I'll talk to you next time.